holidays because it's basically a gathering of family to share food. It's not religious. It doesn't come from anything. It's very in our history, but it's very nice of different cultures coming together and allowing them to put aside any differences and appreciate what they've got. So I would like to extend a hearty Thanksgiving to all of you, and hoping that today you might be grateful for what it said and grateful that it ends on time. So let's see what we can come up with. But have two items that I might talk around. And those items, those points, those issues, is that currently and forever, we live in a world where we don't understand it. Okay, that's okay. But I just want you to see if you can hold that we live in a world we don't understand. And we also have lived in a world where we knew perfection. And want to use those kind of centerpieces and talk a little about how I came to experience gratitude, appreciation, and a thankfulness because I learned things. When I was younger, as I believe all of us, we don't think much about our world except our needs. And when we have that awareness, I'm hungry and food arrives, typically we don't question that. That's how we grow up. I'm hungry, and so food appears, and then that's the end of that. We're kind of ignorant of the whole process. And when I started, I was in high school and wanted money and kind of had desires and tried to figure that out. And so I started to work, and this was a long time ago. And I don't know if it translates, but here it was not very much money, $1.65. So each of you has to do a quick currency conversion to figure out what that was. But I remember when I had worked for a while that I actually held $100, this is US, so in my hands, pieces of paper. $100. That would be these days, I don't know, 8,000 rupees. No, 80,000 rupees, whatever it is. But what I had learned from working is an appreciation of money and where it comes from. Before that, it was just, something I could ask for and get, or I didn't get, variety of circumstances and situations. It wasn't an abundant, we didn't have a money tree. But there was this sense that I had learned through my efforts, through my work, through what I was doing, what the value of money was. And I could then appreciate what things cost and what their value was. And there wasn't much at that time that was worth my money. It took a long time to get it, and I didn't want to spend it quickly. That was just my nature. So there was a gratitude and appreciation of what was happening. I became a little more educated. Before that, I didn't understand, I didn't have an awareness. And so I was living in this kind of a blissful world of ignorance. Ignorance can be kind of a good place to be sometimes. You have to think about that. Not everywhere all the time, but we are ignorant of a lot of things. And if you need to know, ignorance means not knowing. Stupid means unable to learn. And none of us are stupid, but we are ignorant. There's a lot of things we don't know. And sometimes that's just fine. We move through our lives kind of expecting things to happen, to be a certain way. I had expectations that if I put in certain magic numbers into a screen on my computer, I would be transported into a world where I could meet you today. And I think I know, oh yeah, it's Zoom and here's the code and this is how it works. But truly, I have no idea. I have no idea. Very ignorant about the wires and the systems and how it goes and in the air. But I don't need to know that. But when I have a little bit of understanding of the process, that's when actually my gratitude, my appreciation grows. And then I can be thankful for that. When I came out of school, Brother Yogesh mentions that engineering, and I took a job partially, tangentially related to that. And my work, my job, was to go into different buildings, industries, factories, offices, and see what they did and evaluate their operations and see if I could help them stay in business. It was an insurance company, and we didn't want them to have a fire and we didn't want them to blow up. It's bad for them, it's bad for us. And so every day, mostly, I would go into different places. I would go into different, let's say, factories and watch what they did. And the more I saw things, the more I learned about the world, the more I truly had an appreciation. Previously, I was ignorant. I didn't know a lot about how things worked. I still don't, to a certain degree. And I'm comfortable with what I know and what I don't know. And I think that's an interesting point for us to evaluate. How comfortable are you with things you don't know? And can you be content not knowing something? Okay. And it's true for all of us. I mean, there might be a plumber in the audience, but most of us don't know how to fix all of our plumbing. There might be an electrician in the group, but most of us probably couldn't wire a house. There's lots of things I kind of have an idea about, but I really don't know. And so when I learn a little, that's actually when my appreciation comes. Otherwise, I have an expectations that everything should work the way I want it to. And so one of the things that I learned was how things were made. And I wanted to share something with all of you. I think I can share screen. I got that. It's a little meditation, but it's a meditation on the compiled wisdom that we have put together. And it's going to be about a spring, a little spring. And I'm going to show you a machine, and the machine makes springs. And the machine is the one I've chosen to share with you, makes a variety of springs, and you're going to watch that. And you might not have ever thought about springs before, but they're all around in your life. They're probably in your laptops to keep it open. They're in your car doors. They're all sorts of little pieces of metal. And if you don't think about them, you don't worry about them, and they're not very expensive, but the ability for people to make a machine that makes a spring that you use in your life, I want you to have a reflection and a meditation on that. So if I can, Yogesh, I'm going to share the screen and play this little video. It's not very long. And I want you to see how springs on this machine are made and go just into the experience of the mesmerization of the process. It just kind of captivates you. It always did with me. and know that somehow this thing is made by the combined intellects of many over time to make the machine, to make the steel, to put it together, to get it to you for whatever it is. So let's see if we can do this. So it's going to start slow, and then it's going to move at its production speed. There's not any words. A little fun, I hope. Some of you may have had that understanding before, but that was one of many, many, many different styles of spring making machines. And at the end, it just spits them out. And the first time I would have seen that, I could have watched it for hours. It was just very hypnotic to me. And understanding that, I realized how much knowledge, effort, combined energies of people came together to make that. If I gave you, well, actually, if I said make a spring, you wouldn't be able to find the metal. You couldn't dig it in your backyard. You couldn't make it into a wire. It takes certain process. To be able to design, it's a computer numerically controlled machine, designing that. The amount of effort and creativity to make those little things, I was always amazed at, always kind of inspired. And when I understood, there was gratitude that grew in me that didn't before. And when we have knowledge, it's only then do we appreciate things. And I'm gonna give you a few more examples and then see how we might take this. But part of my job also was to go to different places, and there's a company at that time called Philip Morris, and it's a worldwide name. They made cigarettes and they owned everything in the United States. And they made food and this and pretty much addictive things, sugar, tobacco, alcohol, food stuff. But one of the companies that they owned and I was able to go into was the gelatin manufacturing for a product called Jello. And maybe you've heard of Jello. It's that wiggly stuff that you might get. Gelatin, there's a couple different brands. But for this company, there was one facility in the United States that made the base of that dessert, Jello. And if you're very American, you put carrots in Jello for a salad, and you put fruit in Jello for a dessert. So I don't know if those are any of your recipes, but it's very standard and very typical. And it's something that's, when I was growing up, everybody had it. It was just around. It was kind of fun. It was hot water and gelatin and flavor and color and sugar. But I went to the place that made the gelatin. And if you know much about gelatin, it's basically a coagulant, and collagen is in there. And it's made from things that have protein. It's a protein. Protein, collagen makes the gelatin and makes this nice little dessert. The gelatin comes from animals. And it comes from the parts of the animals at this plant that aren't useful in any other way. The bones, the noses, the hooves, the gristle, the leftover parts, and pretty much they get barrels of this stuff and they put it in an acid and they break it down and they grind it down, and out at the end comes a powder. And the powder is called gelatin. And so that's what's in Jello. And if you're a hardcore Brahma Kumari, you wouldn't eat it because it's from animal. Sort of. Because one of the most interesting things about that, for me, was that at the end of this process, there was an individual who would come around from the Jewish faith, and he would look at that and he would say that now it is so far removed from its source, it is no longer an animal, and therefore it's kosher, and it's okay for us in a community to use. There was no difference, except that he had said that I can't recognize this. It is no longer connected. It is not an animal anymore. And that's very true. When we have certain things that have one form, it moves through its cycle and takes on another form. In the backyard of the center that I'm at, Global Harmony House in Great Neck, we have a vegetable garden. And when the garden is harvested, a month ago, we take all the tomatoes and all the eggplant and all the basil and all the peppers, and they're gone. And I dig a big hole, and then we start to throw in the leftover vegetable scraps in this hole during the winter. And then we cover it up in the spring, and then we mix it all up, and then we plant again. And somehow the carrot scraps become food for the basil roots. And somehow the pineapple skins, covering tops, become the nutrients for the mint. Somewhere along the line, it has changed from one thing into another. And when I see these things, I understand process now as much as I can, and that is the source of my gratitude, thankfulness, appreciation. If I didn't know anything about these things, I would just assume that, in a way, it's a miracle. We live in a land of many miracles. Lots of things are happening that we don't know how. And science is kind of the explanation of some of the miracles, but we have a lot of those. We live in a world where there's a lot of those things that we don't understand. And when we get the information, then we can appreciate how a spring is made, how food is made, how things in the world work. that when we have that awareness, we get the gratitude, we get that understanding. But when we don't have any knowledge, there is no gratitude, appreciation, and thankfulness, because we assume things are going to work out, because we've lived in that world where things work out. And Brother Yogesh mentioned that this is an experienced audience, knows some things about their spiritual existence and relationships, and knows a little about time, and want you to then take some of these thoughts, because if you can see yourself expecting things to work out like a little child does, I want food and it appears. I want this and it comes. I'm not happy, someone comes and hugs me. All my needs are met, and I don't know how, and I don't think about it, because that's my nature. My nature is perfection, because I've lived in a world where it is perfect. Everything is fine. Everything works out. I'm ignorant of how it works. I don't understand everything, but I don't need to, and I'm not bothered by it. And I really don't even think about those things. Who am I? We've learned that we are spiritual beings. When I learn that, only then can I be thankful, appreciate it, truly understand it. But in this cycle of time, I want you to think about that idea that we don't know how things work. And if you've imagined it, there was a time when there weren't hospitals, there weren't police, there weren't prisons, there weren't insurance companies, there weren't a lot of things. And there wasn't even please and thank you. We weren't grateful there. We didn't appreciate anything there, because we didn't have the understanding. We had a sense of rightfulness and perfection. And of course, if I had a need or a thought, it would happen. And I would only have thoughts and needs that were appropriate for myself at that time. I have been told, and I kind of accept this, that in that time, I'm going to call it golden age, paradise, silver age, that we can't give anybody anything because everybody's full. There are no good karmas. There's nothing beneficial at that age. We are living in the reward of the efforts of a previous time. And that means that we are ignorant to a lot of different things. We're ignorant to vice. We're ignorant to how the world works. We don't even know where we come from. And we don't care. But we don't help each other in the way that we do now. And so there is no gratitude. No one in the golden age has said, oh, thank you so much. I really needed your help. I appreciate what you just gave me. We don't appreciate it because we expect it. It's just the order of things at that time. I find that kind of fascinating that we don't, in this little connection here, we don't say please, we don't say thank you. And actually there are some people I've met who still have that golden age sanskar. Don't say goodbye. No, I don't know if you've been on a phone call with some people, but when they're done talking, they hang up. Oh, okay. I guess we're finished. And that's deep sanskar, habit, way of being. It's in us, in me, and I believe in you, there's just a sense that the world is supposed to work in my favor to meet my needs, because that's a deep experience that I carry around. And so it must be quite shocking for all of us when, it doesn't happen. Another part of our eternity. But when we come into spiritual knowledge of what I've been studying with the Brahmakumaris, then all of a sudden I'm no longer ignorant of myself. And there's a light bulb that goes off. There's an understanding that's created. And it's that understanding that brings in appreciation and gratitude. Now I know who I am. Now I know where I'm from. I didn't have that before because I didn't know it. And now that I do know that, I know a little about how a spring is made. I know a little about how Jello is made. I know a little about who I am. Do I know everything? I'm sure I don't. Do I know all the details of everything of the three worlds? Nah. Am I comfortable with what I know? Very much so. But I don't know everything, but I can only then start to appreciate, start to be grateful for what I've received. Because it's only at this time do I actually have that chance to know, to understand, and appreciate. I find that very interesting, that this is my chance to, thank people, thank God, thank knowledge, and live in that amazement. I'm amazed at what I know now compared to what I didn't know on all levels, about work, about money, about food, about springs, about spiritual knowledge. And living with that quality and that awareness, I also know that I'm going to lose that. I'm going to lose the ability to be amazed or to learn something. I'm going to lose that ability to say, wow, now I know about this and I can appreciate that. Because I'll be living in a world where everything is just going to happen automatically. Perfection. That example again of a little baby. I'm hungry, food comes. I'm tired, I get put to bed. I, not feel good, I get burped. All of those little things. There's someone that takes care of me, that makes it happen for me. And I don't think about why I had to burp, why I got hungry. I just, here's something, I have the thought, and it gets met. That's a big part of it. We lived in a world where we knew perfection, and we carry that with us. And we're also living in a world where we don't fully understand. And all of those allow us to, at this time, I'm going to call it this time of knowing and unknowing coming together, we get to be thankful. We get to appreciate. We have that gratefulness. And so one of the things I'd like to just offer for everybody today is the sense that enjoy the opportunity to be grateful. Because that means you know something. That means that you're aware and conscious and awake at this time. Being grateful means you can look and see something and have respect that it's within your access. There are many people who aren't grateful, not because they don't have things, but they don't understand a lot about the process. They don't know who they are. They don't know how things came. They just living in a world where there isn't that appreciation. And when I'm grateful, when I have that awareness, one of the things that comes up for me is that we're able to have this sense that I know where I'm at, I know what's happening, and that makes me live in that world of wonder. And it's not like I wonder what's happening out there, but oh my gosh, look at that. That's a wonder or wonderful. And sometimes ask individuals that you live in one of two worlds. And there's a line, there's a wall in between the two of them, and you have to choose. Where nothing is amazing or wonderful, or everything is amazing and wonderful. And you get to choose, and you get to experience the consequences of your choice. Okay? I think it's wonderful to be with you today. I think it's a miracle to be here today. I'm always just so kind of overjoyed that things work. Just like, oh my gosh, this is great. This is truly wonderful. It's something that I want to appreciate because the choice I find is not so great. Why isn't this working? Why didn't this happen? Why are we, always having problems or such? And we had a conversation recently, and that there is something called a negativity bias. And a negativity bias is that we expect things to work. But the things that stand out and that we remember and make an impact on us are the things that don't. And a little pop quiz for you is, remember your most memorable flight, airplane flight. And see what pops into mind. Might not be your best one, but what's the most memorable one? And oftentimes, and when I was working and traveling, this is what people would talk about. What went wrong? Oh, I was in the flight, but it was late. Oh, I had to get the middle seat. Oh, they ran out of my snacks that I wanted. Oh, we had to circle for a while. Oh, I didn't find my luggage. Oh, that's all anybody talked about. What went wrong? There's a negativity bias because somehow our perfection is the way we know things can be, expect things to be. And when something is different from that, it stands out. The best flight you can have is not memorable. You get there on time, you get through security without a problem, it takes off on time, you're very comfortable, you have a little nap, you land, your luggage is there, whoever's picking you up is there, nothing out of the ordinary. Perfection. And you won't remember that one because it didn't stand out. Negativity, things that happen, stand out for us. And that's what we remember. And so when we move from a world of unknowing, ignorance, perfection, we start to learn how things can go wrong. And we spend a lot of time, a lot of births in that realm. This isn't working out. This isn't working out. And that becomes our mindset. That becomes our worldview. And that becomes our way of thinking. And so that is an accumulated habit from over time. And now we need to, for me, go back to our original. Who am I? What is the way things could work out? And how can I see myself going through a transition of a negativity bias into a perfection expectation? And it is a wonderful experience at this time to be able to see both, know where we're coming from, know an influence that we've had, know that I'm moving into a place where I don't have to worry about things. It's just going to be the way it's supposed to be. And it might not be remarkable, but it will be wonderful. And I want you to think about the contrast of that. Not remarkable, but wonderful. And see if you can store up some appreciation and thankfulness now, because this is some of your last moments for a long time. And you'll be entering into a world where you don't have the awareness, you don't have the appreciation, but you do have a lovely experience, a wonderful life. And I'm going to pause at this time and see if there might be a chance for others to comment or interject things, share their thankfulness and wonderment, maybe that they're feeling at this time, if that's okay. Are we okay with opening it up and questions or comments or inspirations?
Yes, if you'd like to ask something, say something, please do type it in the chat box. So Eric, first of all, a lot of appreciation and gratitude from me to you. I do always enjoy your perspectives. And I like that sentence, either everything is wonderful or nothing is wonderful. You can live in one of two worlds. A question came to my mind, and perhaps we can start off with this. So you mentioned how to understanding can lead to gratitude, and you showed us various ways to do that. I just wonder whether you can speak a bit more about the other side of gratitude and appreciation, that when you are full of gratitude and appreciation, how does it impact your life and especially your relationships? What has happened in your relationships as gratitude has entered those dynamics for you?
My response to that would be that there's an appreciation for everybody, and it would be the same kind of a perspective. You can see the weaknesses of everybody and lead your life that way. Oh, this one says that, she never does this, why is it always this way? And that's the world you're going to create. Or you can see the strengths, the qualities, whatever it is, and it might be hard to see in some, but they're good things, what they do, what they bring, what their qualities are. And I know that one is that God says, Baba says that if you recognize me, that's good enough. That's the one quality that might be there. But one of the things that I use to help me is that I don't always get along with everybody, okay? But I get along with everybody. But there are, prickly things probably in me and others also that would like to avoid. And if I ever discount anybody, why do they have to come? Why do they have to do it this way? I can replace that as, if they weren't here, would I want to do what they're doing also? And I truly know that I can't do anything on my own. I can do lots of things, but I'm living in a community and I need everybody. Everybody's valuable. And so how can I appreciate and look at everybody, anybody, and see some sort of benefit and appreciation, because that makes my life a lot better. If I look at the weaknesses of others, if I see those, if I hold that, if I comment on it, I'm creating that, I'm reinforcing that, I'm living in that awareness. And so having an appreciation that others are coming, it's one of the greatest things I have discovered is that I believe, and this is very personal, that I know God, that I've met God. And I've met a lot of people who don't understand that. And so it's a rare commodity to meet someone who also has that same awareness and feeling. And so that's the basis for me to appreciate anyone who shares that. They know, they understand. We come in with our own personalities and strengths and weaknesses, and it's best for me to focus on what they can do and what they can offer rather than what they don't, what they lack. That might be a beginning to address your comment, Yogesh Bhai.
Yeah, that's great. That's really useful. And kind of connected with relationship. I wonder if you could also say something about self-appreciation. Like, how do you appreciate yourself, and what effect does that have on the way you feel about yourself and the quality of your self-relationship? Is that something that's in your experience?
Yeah, very important to understand the self and appreciate the self. You are who you are. And, you know, it has been often said that we've heard that to compare is not beneficial. Okay. It's what we are about, and it takes some time actually, you know, to understand the self and therefore appreciate it. If we don't know, then that's okay. But oftentimes in our life, we get information that we might not be looking for. You know, people insult you, people quantify you or put you in certain groups or clans or things and have an opinion about that. And so people can have an opinion and you start to learn about that. And you can start to say, well, maybe that's true. Maybe that my awareness of myself, I wasn't aware who I was, but now I am from somebody else's point of view, and we can take sorrow from that. And so having that understanding of myself, my strengths, my qualities, it's a great exercise. It's kind of a must. What are some of my qualities? What are my aspects? What could I do better? How do I learn about that? And then when we have that understanding at this time, in the world and spiritual, both, I can appreciate that and I can use that. And I can be content with who I am and what I've got. I'm unique, I'm distinct, I'm special, I'm wonderful, and so is everybody else. And so holding that awareness and somehow getting the strength and the grounding inside of ourselves to weather other people's opinions that might differ is a process and a necessary strength that's going on. Another task. I'm a soul, I'm eternal, I am peaceful. These are the things that give me that grounding. I've got other qualities, I've made mistakes. Okay, but let me accept myself, let me understand myself, and therefore let me appreciate myself.
Great. All right. I'd appreciate it if somebody has a question. Otherwise, I'll just have to keep making them up for the few minutes that remain. Okay, so let's look at the third main relationship then. One is relations with others, relation with yourself, and then let's look at the relationship with Baba. And you said you believe you know God, and I believe you do as well. How does that work for you? What do you appreciate most in your relationship with Baba, and how do you talk to Baba in this regard?
Yeah. I guess first is that awareness. That there was a time when I didn't know. I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have an awareness, and I was ignorant. And so there wasn't any appreciation. There wasn't any chance to be grateful because I didn't know. And so when that knowledge was available to me, again, that's kind of the same as learning everything else. I learned something, spiritual knowledge, and that automatically was very happy with. And that happiness was an appreciation. You know, now I know who I am. Now I know how the world works. Now I know, and that knowledge brings the appreciation. And so having that, I guess, supporting, underlying, it's not necessarily any more conscious, but truly every day that I have learned, I have experienced, and I know, and I just have this deep appreciation for what's going on. And I think that's Baba's work, to help transform us by giving us what we need so that we can accept what's coming. I'm moving from a place of ignorance through a place of effort into a place of unknowing perfection. And having that now, because if I understand what I've been taught, we don't know God. We don't appreciate God in the golden age. That quality isn't there. And so it kind of goes hand in hand. God comes, I've learned something, I'm grateful for that. I use that gratefulness in kind of a changing that energy, if you know how energy changes. Knowledge, gratefulness, perfection. And so every time I think of Baba, every time I remember, every time I listen to something he says, that is food, energy that I process and turn that into some sort of energetic qualities that I can use. Here in the United States, we're going into winter. I'm assuming that you're in the Northern Hemisphere, most of you. And they have I don't know if it's a contest, but there's this video contest for the biggest bear, okay? Because bears do a lot of eating before the winter comes. And so they get very, very fat, the fattest bear contest. And people say, oh, ours is the fattest over here. And it's these bears are huge because they're gonna take what they can while they can, and then they're gonna hibernate and sleep. And in a way, this is our time to eat as much as we can, get spiritually fat, because that energy has to last us for a long time, okay? And so it's another way to look at that appreciation. It's an all-you-eat spiritual buffet. And the more you can, digest and ingest and hold on to and kind of consume, the better off you're going to be over time. And so the knowledge to appreciation to spiritual energy and power is the process that we should thank Baba for constantly.
All right, it's a great analogy to be spiritually overweight.
Yeah, you are looking a little chubby.
Well, I'm eating a lot of Baba's treasures, as as you see. All right, here's a question. How can we increase compassion?
How can we increase compassion? Change point of view. Okay. Everybody who comes to the Brahma Kumaris, in my experience, has a story. Okay, nobody just kind of wanders in. Everybody's got some experiences. Everybody's got some things that have gone on. Everybody's got something they're looking for or wanting to get away from or something. And to be able to empathize with that, the ability to take yourself out of your worldview and see if you can experience theirs, somebody else's. And so I think we all do that, you know. Who am I now? Who am I in the golden age? What are the 5 forms? We have the skill to be able to move from our current reality into another one. And if we can practice being flexible, a little less tight in our own current views and perceptions and ways of thinking, sanskars, all that stuff that holds us tight, the more we can loosen that up, the easier it is to have compassion for others. And if you want to try something, go up into the soul world and see the world and the problems and the situations of everybody from Baba's point of view. He doesn't get bothered by it, but he loves everybody and he cares for us. And so he's very compassionate, but he knows something's going on. And so he just gives. And so that's a nice question, to be more compassionate. What can I give in this situation that will help whoever I'm around? Check it out.